Yo, what's going on, guys? It's BWADESPORTS. We're going to talk about my top 25 rankings, and I'm going to kind of explain why I have some teams where I have them, and just kind of what I think about each team this point in the year, and why I think they're a top 25 team. All right, start out at the 25th spot. We got Texas. I think everybody knows that they're a top 25 caliber team. They just ain't had a great season, but they did beat Oklahoma, and I think it was more, John Mateer did throw 3 picks. I think, if you play any team and they throw 3 picks, you're probably going to more than likely win the football game. But their defense looks solid. I think everybody knows they got all the talent in the world at Texas. They just gotta find, whatever works for them. Their offense ain't great. Arch Manning hasn't been great. At least he didn't turn the ball over in the Oklahoma game. So he looked a little bit better. As long as their offense can start clicking, I think Texas can beat a good bit of the teams I have ranked ahead of them. I do think they're a top 25 to 15 caliber team right now. I just don't think that they can compete with, anybody I have in like the top 10 to 15. You know what I mean? But other than that, Texas solid ball club. They can turn it around. Season's not over for them. 24, I got Utah. Outside of the loss versus Texas Tech, they've looked solid. They crushed the solid Arizona State team. I think their loss to Texas Tech is just more of an indictment on how good Texas Tech is. I think Utah is a solid ball club, coming in at the 24 spot. 23, I got Cincinnati. They lost to Nebraska by 3 in week 1, and ever since they look solid. They beat a good Iowa State team, and they look good every week. They're beating teams by double digits. They're getting the job done. Offense looks solid. Defense looks all right. I think they're a solid ball club. Outside of that loss to Nebraska in week 1, which was a really close loss, they've looked really good. And 22, who I have ranked 1 spot ahead of them, is the team they lost to, Nebraska, who have looked real solid this year outside of a real close loss to Michigan. Offense is clicking, Raul is clicking. Defense looks better, more improved since week 1. Each week really has been improving. And at 21, I got Michigan, who beat Nebraska by 3. Michigan, they just lost last week to USC. Die by the run game. You know how Michigan is. I still think they're a top 25 ball team. They just played a solid USC team. And, USC was able to have everything clicking for them. They played their A-plus game, and you see what happened. That's what happens in college football sometimes. Just because the team loses doesn't mean they should be dropped back a whole lot. I did move USC up a little bit in my rankings, but at 20, this might be controversial, but I got Oklahoma. Didn't look good versus Texas. John Mateer didn't look good, and I don't really know how he's going to look going forward. I still don't know if he's going to be 100%. I don't know if Michael Hawkins Jr. might play next week, but I know that they got a pretty tough schedule ahead of them. They beat a Michigan team, but USC's beat them worse. They beat an Auburn team, which is not a bad team, but they ain't really looked good in that win. Their defense looks really good, but their offense, they rely too much on their quarterback to run the ball as long as pass the ball. And you see, if the quarterback has a bad day, they could lose to anybody. So that's why I have Oklahoma at 20. I just think they need to prove something to me. They got to get some type of run game going. They can't just be fully relying on the quarterback. All these teams that rely on their quarterback to do the running and the passing and to be perfect and efficient every single week, you're most likely going to lose a game, because you can't, the quarterback's not going to be perfect every week. If he has an off week, throws a pick 2 here and there, you're liable to lose a game. That happens. Oklahoma at 20. Virginia 19, I think they look like one of the better ACC teams. Had a tough loss in, I believe, week 1 versus NC State. But ever since then, they've been clicking. They beat a solid Florida State team. And they've looked solid since then. One of the better teams in the ACC. And they beat Florida State when Florida State was undefeated. I think that says a little bit more about that win versus, if they beat them now after they've lost a couple games. That was when Florida State was still, fully in depth into their season. The season wasn't over for them. I think Virginia's looked solid. I like the head coach, Tony Elliott, former Clemson OC. 18, I got USC. They have a solid win over Michigan last week. Looked real good doing it. Rushed for over 200 yards. Threw the ball well. The defense looks improved. Only reason I have them at 18 is just because, I just want to see a little bit more out of them. Maybe another solid win. If they keep winning, they're going to move up. Just not a very big Lincoln Riley guy. But if they keep doing their thing, they'll move up in the rankings. 17, I have Washington. This might be controversial to people, but I just think Washington's a good football team. The best thing they've done might be lose to Ohio State by not that many points. They played Ohio State better than Illinois did. They played them better than anybody has so far this year. They beat a solid Maryland team. I just think they're a good football team. I think the coach is good, Jed Fish. Maybe, they'll prove me right. Maybe they'll prove me wrong, but that's my pick for now at 17, Washington. 16, I got Mizzou falling to 16. Could be debatable. Close loss to Alabama, but you was at home. We seen if you stop the Missouri run, they're not a great pass team. Bo Pabula's not a great passer. Decent game manager, good solid runner, but not a great passer. And Missouri's not a great pass team, and their defense is solid, but I believe, they can run into some problems in the future, but they're at 16. If they win from here on out, they'll move up. Not a bad loss. But I think that Alabama controlled them a lot more than you'd like to see, even though it was only a 3-point game. That game wasn't as close as the score indicated. Alabama really controlled that game a lot of the way, and it stopped Mizzou from running the ball, and that's their game. If you stop Mizzou from running, you can see what happened. Bo Pabula struggled, and that might be the recipe to beat them. You know what I mean? I got them at 16. 15, I got BYU. They look solid. They close win in overtime versus Arizona. Teams got to be able to win games like that. You got to credit them coming out with it in overtime. Championship teams are made of close wins like that. And outside of that, they've looked good in every other game. They've whooped some teams. The offense looks explosive. Defense looks solid. They're well coached, well disciplined. I think they're a solid ball club. I got them at 15. One of the better teams in the Big 12. 14, I got Vandy. They got whooped by Alabama on the road, but Vandy's a solid ball team. Fighting Diego Pavia, solid coach team. I think they're worthy of that 14 spot. Anybody can debate me in the comments. 13, I got LSU. Solid win over South Carolina by 10 at home last week. Defense is a top 5 defense. Questions the offense. They live or die by Nussmeier. He looked great, but they've looked good enough to win games. Only losses to a great Ole Miss team. And if they keep winning, they'll move up. Solid team. Not a big Brian Kelly guy, though. Can't stand Brian Kelly for some reason. It's just something about him. But the LSU at 13. All right, now we're going to get into my top 12. You can say these are my playoff teams. My top 12 teams in college football. At number 12, we got Georgia Tech, undefeated, look like the second best ACC team so far this year. Offensively, there's all Haynes King, all run game usually. Jamal Haynes and Haynes King, both the Hayneses. They got Singleton at the receiver spot, solid receiver. Rutherford too. Solid group. well coached. I'm a big Brent Key guy. Solid defensive team. Just a well-disciplined team. They're going to play 100% every week. He's going to have them show up every week. They're going to live or die by Haynes King. I think as long as they keep winning, we might see them undefeated going into Georgia. That could be a big game at the end of the year. They almost beat Georgia last year, but almost ain't good enough. But they might can get it done this year if they win out from here on. I think they will. Georgia Tech's a solid ball team. They ain't nobody to mess around with for sure. Number 11, I got Notre Dame. Our 2-loss team in my top 12. But they kill everybody outside of, I'm not really a guy that says, you have a good loss, but their only 2 losses are two top 5 teams, in my opinion. And ever since those losses, they've just killed anybody they play. Really explosive offense. Their only question is, can the defense hold up in the big games? Well, we'll find out again in the future. But as of right now, I think they're a top 12 football team. And if they win out, they're going to be in the playoff. So, Notre Dame, number 11. Number 10, I got Oregon. Now, some people might not want them to fall back this far. But to me, you ain't got a good win. Penn State sucks. They're irrelevant. You've looked good. Defense looks great. The offense is questionable. You didn't score much against Indiana. 6 of your points was from the pick six. So really 7 of your points is from the pick six. Hasn't looked great offensively. Lost by 10 at home. Indiana's a great team, but we don't know. There's a lot of question marks about this Oregon team. Can they beat a good football team? I don't know. I have them at number 10. I think they're still a good team. I think the defense is elite. I think Indiana might just be that good, but I still think Oregon's a good team. We'll see them prove it. They just got to win out. Number 9, I got Texas Tech. They've killed everybody they've played. They beat solid football teams, Houston, Utah, Kansas last week. Really solid ball team. Got money in the program now, got the talent, and they got the coaching. They're killing everybody, great at the quarterback position. Solid run game. They got a good receiving back as well. One of the better defenses in the country. I'd say at least a top 10 defense and a top 10 offense. That's why they're a top 10 football team. Number 9 for me. Number 8, I got Tennessee. They're winning football games. They might be not looking great in the last few wins, but they're winning games. Only losses, close loss to Georgia, which I only have 1 spot ahead of them, spoiler alert. But they keep doing their thing and winning football games. They'll be there when it comes time for the playoff. Number 7, I got Georgia. Solid win over Auburn. They pulled away at the end. People want to say the referees and this, that, and the other, which is fine, but they got it done. They pulled away at the end. They beat every team outside of an Alabama team I got in the top 5, and they've looked good doing it. And I'd pick Georgia to beat any team I have behind them if they was to play tomorrow. So I got Georgia at number 7. 6, I got Ole Miss. They struggled a little bit with Washington State at home, and people might be worried about that. But, sleeper game, might be hard to get up for after the week before that you beat LSU. But I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I still think they're a top team. I think, they'll be ready to roll for their next big-time matchup. And as long as they keep doing what they're doing, they'll be a playoff team. Number 5, I got Texas A&M. They killed Florida. Solid win, I guess. They beat a good Notre Dame team. Texas A&M looks good so far this year. They got one of the best defenses. I'm a big Mike Elko guy. I like the way he coaches. He's got that team looking disciplined. Solid running team. I don't know how great they are passing the ball. They rely a lot on Marcel Reed. I don't know how good he's going to be in a big-time game, but we'll have to see. He's not the best passer I've seen, but he gets the job done. Not the most consistent I've seen, but he gets the job done. He runs the ball well. They're solid offensively. I think they deserve a top 5 spot. They just got some questions. I don't know. I don't know how I fully feel about them, but I think they're a top 5 football team. Number 4, I got Alabama. They got the most ranked wins so far this season. They look good doing it. They look pretty good. I mean, Missouri game was a close game, but they really controlled that game for the most part. Ever since the week 1 loss versus FSU, they looked more disciplined. They look ready each week. They look like they got a chip on their shoulder. Ty Simpson's playing like a Heisman candidate. Playing like the number 1 Heisman candidate, in my opinion. Defense looks better. They stopped Missouri from doing what they needed to do to win the game. As long as they keep doing what they're doing, I mean, they look like a top 5 football team to me. I think they got Tennessee this coming week. That's at Neyland too, I believe, or is that at Tuscaloosa? I need to look that. We'll be predicting that game later in the week. I don't know whether they're playing at home or away, but I think it's at Tuscaloosa. It's a big game though this week versus Tennessee. Number 3, we got Indiana. Has the team looked better than Indiana? In my opinion, not really. But I do only have them at number 3. Killed a good Illinois team. Illinois, I think, is a top 30 team. They killed them. Beat them worse than any team has yet. They beat a good Oregon team at Oregon by double digits. And threw a pick 6. Still won the game by double digits. I'm a big Kirk Cinetti fan. I mean, there's something about this Indiana team that's just so likable. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because Indiana's not a top-tier program and they look like a top-tier football team. Kirk Cinetti's coaching them up. There's questions, about how good is this team really, because they made the playoff last year, but they didn't beat any big teams on that road to the playoff, and then they got bounced in the first round. But, Cignetti, year 1 at a non-football school, took them to the playoff. Year 2, beating a good Oregon team who's known for being a top-tier football program, or known for being a well above average football program. And just looks really good. The team looks disciplined. The team looks great defensively, electric offensively, can run the ball well, can throw the ball well. They don't have any holes in this football team. And Cignetti's just one hell of a guy. I like his demeanor. I like the smart-ass demeanor. He tells it like it is, and it is what it is. I think he's a great coach. I think Indiana's a great football team, and they're my early pick to win the national championship this year. Number 2, I got Miami. They ain't done nothing to drop down, in my opinion. It's the only reason why Indiana is 3 is because number 2 and number 1 hasn't done anything to drop. Miami's has some solid wins. They've looked good in every win so far. Look like one of the best offenses in the country. Defense much improved from last year. We'll see what they can do. If they win out, they'll be there. Ohio State, man. Defense looks like one of the best defenses in the country. Absolutely shut out Illinois outside of a couple plays. Best receiving core in the country. Julian Sand looks like a hell of a quarterback. Run game solid. But like I said, defense looks like number 1 defense in the country. Ryan Day's coaching these guys up. I wasn't big on Ryan Day. I'd say even last year I wasn't big on Ryan Day, but he's doing his thing now. You can't deny when a guy does something. You got to give credit where credit's due, and he's earning that credit now. He's doing his thing. Ohio State looks like the number 1 team in the country. They ain't done nothing to lose that, at least in my opinion. Whether you think Miami or Indiana has looked a little bit better because they're bigger wins, that is what it is. But, Ohio State's done their thing. They beat a solid Texas team, beat a solid Illinois team, beat a solid Washington team. All these teams, I think, are top 25 teams. So, Ohio State's done it, man. They look, and I think they'll be there at the end. But that's my top 25. Long video, but I just wanted to kind of go through what I think about each team, just kind of give a reason why I think where they're at, and just kind of talk some football with you guys. I hope I didn't bore you too much on your Monday, but if you like talking college football and you're a college football sicko like me, you'll probably enjoy this video. Y'all have a good one. Happy Monday. Peace out.